In Texas this week, talk of a viable Democratic candidate for governor sent North Texas media into a frenzy. The Dallas County Democratic Party chair told several outlets Sheriff Lupe Valdez would resign effective December 8th and file to challenge Republican Governor Greg Abbott next year. The sheriff's office quickly refuted the claim, saying Sheriff Valdez is still weighing her options, but it raises the question, does she or any Democrat have what it takes to beat a Republican? Hello, Dr. Henson.
How are you?
Good to see you. Jim Henson directs the Texas Politics Project at UT, aiming to educate, engage, and poll Texas voters. Thank you. We traveled to his studio this week to discuss the possibility of Dallas County Sheriff Lupe Valdez running for governor. Dr. Henson, big news this week is that we may have a Democrat throwing their hat in the ring for the governor's race. Tell me about that.
Well, Sheriff Lupe Valdez is making all the moves that we would expect of a candidate. The expectation is that she is going to run in the race. This has been talked about quite a bit in Democratic circles for the last few weeks. It does look like it's going to happen, and she would pose an interesting candidacy in a race that right now is really lacking much action on the Democratic side, other than a few rumblings of candidates that had been pretty unlikely to succeed. So she is going to increase interest on the Democratic side should she follow through, as most people expect she will.
A lot of people obviously in Dallas County are familiar with her, but not necessarily around the state. What do we know about her?
Well, she is, she has the benefit of being a law enforcement officer. She's been sheriff of Dallas County for multiple terms. She spoke at the National Democratic Convention in 2016, made headlines in the state and to a lesser degree around the country, opposing both the restrictions on sanctuary cities and SB 4, which was passed by the legislature in the last session, as well as being opposed to the so-called bathroom bill in Texas. So she's got a lot of bona fides that are really good for a Democratic primary candidate, particularly given that some of the candidates that have been talking, or possible candidates that have been mentioned on the Democratic side, have been a little bit more from the center of the party. She's somebody very likely to appeal to the activists and the more progressive wing of the party.
And why do you think none of the Democratic senators or representatives in Texas are throwing their names in the hat?
I think that people that are currently office holders and, have a bird in the hand, if you will, look at a statewide race, look at the recent politics, look at the state of the Democratic Party, and don't see much gain in it. The chances of success are small. And so if you're somebody that is, even at all risk sensitive, you're probably inclined to wait.
Texas is still a very red state. So does any Democrat really stand a chance?
Well, any Democrat starts with a significant disadvantage. Greg Abbott has a lot going for him as the presumed candidate. He's the incumbent governor. He's very popular among the Republican base and really across all factions of the Republican Party. He has a significant war chest. He has high name recognition across the state. And he's actually in a pretty good spot right now. He came out of the legislative session in a pretty strong position with his own party, and his response to Hurricane Harvey got relatively strong reviews, very strong reviews among Republicans, and even, reasonably approving views among Democrats in the last University of Texas Tribune poll we did. So Governor Abbott goes into this in a very strong position. Any Democrat is pushing a rock up a pretty big hill. Democrats go into this with significant disadvantages. They're relatively disorganized, they're underfunded, and none of the candidates that have been discussed seriously so far, including Sheriff Valdez, have run a statewide campaign before or can be expected to have significant statewide name recognition.
Why do you feel it's so difficult for the Democratic Party to mobilize in Texas?
Well, I think there's two things. On one hand, the Democratic Party as an organization is significantly under-resourced in any kind of aspect you could think about a political party. They've had trouble mobilizing voters to turn out in elections, in part because Latinos tend to vote in smaller numbers. Latino turnout rate is low. As an organization, they're underfunded. They don't have a lot of resources, either financial or institutional resources like think tanks or intermediate organizations, presence in the interest group community. And finally, because they've been shut out of office for so long, they don't have any statewide incumbents, and they don't really have any footholds in government that can be used to propel candidates to the next level. All those combine to make it very hard to recruit candidates and very hard to break this losing streak that they've been on for 2 decades now.
When Texas This Week continues, more on the challenges the Democratic Party faces and what factors could turn things in their favor.